I finally got around to playing Resident Evil 2 Remake, so let's take an in-depth look into it and see just why I was blown away with how much I enjoyed it. Before we start, I've never played the original game and so have zero experience with Resident Evil 2. If you've seen my recent videos, you'll also know that I only played my first and second Resident Evil games about a month ago, so you can tell I've been sucked into the franchise pretty hard. Resident Evil 2 Remake is, in my opinion, the best Resident Evil game I've played to date. And welcome to a review series called Late Reviews, in which we play and review games sometime after their release date to see if they're worth a buy in the current state that they're in. I want to start off by talking about the graphics as usual. I was running the game on an RTX 3080 at 4K on maximum settings with ray tracing turned to max as well. I was shocked how well the game ran at these settings, with the lowest I usually saw the frames drop being around 70 all the way up to 110 to 120 FPS in some smaller areas. Now, in case you can't already tell from the gameplay, this game looks amazing. Every single bit of lighting looks spot on. Being a dark game, the torch and any small aspects of light look fantastic with the shadows they cast, and still being dark enough to have you on the edge of your seat at all times. The main playable characters, as well as the few NPC story characters, all look phenomenal, both in their looks and detail, to their animations being very tight and clean, while still feeling not too snappy for a horror game such as this. The enemies also look grotesquely beautiful, as every zombie you come across looks terrifying, with bits of flesh missing, cuts and gouges out of their body and face, and a completely dead look behind their eyes, making even the smallest and least intimidating enemies terrifying to encounter. And if you are not a fan of gore or disgusting shit like that, you might not be a fan of a lot of parts of this game. The environments also all look fantastic and have so much detail put into them. I never picked up on or noticed anything subpar or out of place during my whole time playing. Even look at how disgustingly detailed this burger is in the opening cutscene. Altogether, this game looks phenomenal in basically every way. Now, we all know my favourite part of any horror-based game is the atmosphere and immersion, as it is the most important factor determining whether a game is tense and scary or not. This game is atmospheric as hell. From the instant you step into playing the game, you'll be shitting your pants from this point until the end of the game. Despite finding new and stronger weapons, you'll never feel so strong that you aren't still constantly checking all around you at all times. The torch being tight and constrained and only lighting up the area directly in front of you will have you scanning every single area you walk from left to right and even up and down. This very regularly scared the balls off of me by either an enemy appearing somewhere I didn't expect or just a noise that made me jump. I find it hard to describe the immersiveness of this game accurately, but I was constantly hunched forward on the edge of my seat and just preparing for everything coming my way. And then we have music, sounds and voice. Starting with music.
What the?
There is one very specific song or audio that plays that you will learn to fear and run for your life as soon as it starts. Other than that, the music is relatively classic horror, with the game being relatively devoid of music whilst just exploring or solving puzzles, but ramping up in intensity and adding to your already high nerves whenever an enemy spots you or you're engaged in a fight. The music during boss fights is also intense and heart-racing, so altogether, despite not being the biggest or most important factor of the game, it's pretty well done. Next up is sounds. Ever wanted to feel like you're in the vicinity of flesh being torn from someone's neck? Too bad, because this game has it. The sounds are disgusting, visceral, and mesmerizing. The sound of footsteps can be heard when certain enemies are on the floor above you, the howl of zombie dogs when they're nearby, or the snarl of lickers when entering their area, all help give you the cues of what to expect if you're listening carefully. Guns sound powerful and impactful, just the general environment sounds of rain, sewer water, or even the subtle silence all enhance how terrifying and enthralling this game is. Then we have voice.
Claire! Hold on! I'll be right there!
Okay! I'm guessing you don't have a key in one of those fancy pockets?
Unfortunately, no. But how are you doing?
You know, just surviving.
That's good.
Sounds like my wife.
I've never seen anything like it. I haven't been able to sleep since that night.
All right, calm down, buddy. Calm down. Just, hey.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to start last week, and I got a call to stay away. I wish I'd come here sooner.
You're here now, Leon. That's all that matters.
Okay, Lieutenant?
As I've mentioned before, the voice acting in Resident Evil games hasn't always been the best, but in my opinion, this game felt a lot more natural and real than previous games. A lot of the characters show emotion through their voice and seem genuine most of the time. The only character that occasionally sounded a little fake was Leon, the male playable character, but he's a sick character, so I'll let that slide. Now we move on to a category called Game Setting and Location. Your main overarching location will be Raccoon City, where an obvious zombie outbreak has occurred, making your way quickly to the police station where you'll spend the first few hours of the game. The police station is, in my opinion, the best location and part of the game, and where I spent the longest and had the most fun. From there you'll progress out of the station and into a few other different and terrifying locations. Altogether I loved the look and feel of this game. Just being based in a regular city that's been hit hard by some insane shit, it feels real and plausible and makes it such a fun location to journey through. Now we're going to chat about the gameplay itself, aiming to cover most of the factors that come into play whilst playing the actual game. Let's start by mentioning something that turns out to be quite important in most Resident Evil games, but even more so in 2, and that is ammo conservation. At times you may feel like you're finding or crafting unlimited amounts of ammo. Don't let this fool you, as you will very quickly run out of ammo if you're not super careful and concise with your shots. My aim was only to kill zombies who were in important locations and not waste my ammo on others, especially since, even once killed, they will soon reawaken a lot of the time, meaning you have to kill them again and again. Eventually they'll stay down, but you definitely don't have enough ammo to do this on every single enemy. Healing items are also very scarce if you're not insanely careful, and on more than one occasion, I found myself entering a boss fight one hit away from death, meaning I had to die numerous times learning how to best fight the boss without getting hit a single time. This was frustrating at times, but it was my fault for playing recklessly until that point. There is an easier difficulty mode that you will recover health over time if you find this is a massive issue for you. Despite most of your important items being relatively scarce, so is your insanely limited inventory space, meaning you're constantly having to forfeit items for other more important items or return to a storage box to store some of them before returning and picking up the new item. I'll be honest, this got a little frustrating at times due to the fact that I'm an extreme hoarder in every game I play. But you can find increases to your inventory slots and learn what items should be kept on hand and which ones don't need to be. Never in a zombie game have I been more scared of a single zombie. But despite the zombies all being quite slow and zombie-like as you'd expect, they're insanely dangerous, and they're often in small closed-off locations where you can't easily walk around or past them. This causes you to have to backtrack or use your ammo on them. There is also no block in this game, so unless you have a knife or a grenade to fight the zombie off with, if you get too close, they'll almost certainly take a chunk out of you, reducing your very scarce health. Upon starting the game, you also have the option to choose between either Leon or Claire to play through the game. Both of their playthroughs and stories differ at times, and you will definitely need to play through both to cover the full story. When you complete the game as one character, you'll be given something called a second run with the other character, in which you play through the game again from their perspective, resulting in notes being left from the previous character and learning how their stories intertwine. During this second run, items, enemies, and events will be different to how they were in the first run. You'll have to complete this second run in order to achieve and witness the true ending to the game. I personally played through as Leon first, then Claire in my second run, so I plan on returning to do it in the opposite order soon. This next gameplay aspect I'm going to speak about in very little detail, as I want to avoid any spoilers, and despite being shown in trailers and being part of the main marketing and hype for this game, I want to keep it a relative surprise for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. At the start of the game, it can be taken relatively slow and leisurely, taking your time to figure out puzzles and avoiding or killing zombies whilst doing so. After progressing to a certain point in the game, a game mechanic will be added that completely removes this slowness to the game, and results in you needing to plan at all times and have expertly learnt your way around the map. This game, more than any other I think I've played, had me studying and consulting the map at all times. I could probably almost draw the police station map from memory for you after playing through this game twice. That's all I'll say on the matter, but this gameplay factor both terrified me and had me more enthralled than I'd been to date. As usual, Resident Evil games are ultimately puzzle games with shooting and horror elements, and this game is no exception. Explore everywhere you can to find notes or hidden clues on how to unlock a safe or open a previously locked door. Examine an item you find to learn it's secretly a USB stick that can be put into a computer to unlock a door that leads to a powerful weapon. It's moments like these that make you feel like a genius when you figure them out, and makes the game feel rewarding and addictive. The game felt tough on a first playthrough while still being fair. All of the aspects mentioned play into the game's strengths, as too much ammo or a block button or more health items would just make the game feel easy and as if you have no reason to be scared. Instead, I was shitting myself the entire time. And now I'm sure we all want to know, how long is the game and how much content is provided? As usual, we'll use my own experience and also the website How Long to Beat. I personally have 18.5 hours in this game, and that is with me completing both the first and second run, and also restarting the game about 2 to 3 hours in as my recordings hadn't worked properly. By the time I've finished the second lot of playthroughs that I plan on doing, I'll likely have somewhere around 25 to 30 hours. According to How Long to Beat, the main story should take around 8.5 hours. That plus extras should be around 14.5 hours. And around 34 hours if you're aiming for completionist. I think they've perfectly timed this game out. It doesn't overstay its welcome, while still giving plenty of replay value for those who want to keep playing the game. It also includes a handful of extra modes that act as time trials to keep you engaged, trying to get better times and unlock everything the game has to offer. Performance will be a short one today. As mentioned, I was playing at 4K on an RTX 3080 at max settings with ray tracing turned to max. The game ran between 70 to 110 or 120 FPS, and I never had any noticeable spikes or dips. I also never noticed or experienced any bugs or glitches through my whole time playing, and it seemed to have performed pretty much perfectly the whole time through. As usual, the only issue that did occur was I originally intended to play the game in ultra-wide, which it does support, but sadly the cutscenes aren't supported and instead have black bars. Now let's have a quick chat about the story in Resident Evil 2 Remake. From Leon's perspective, he's heading into Raccoon City as he's meant to be starting as a police officer at the local police station. Yes, the first place you end up. While Claire is heading into Raccoon City to find her brother Chris Redfield. That name may ring a bell if you've played other Resident Evil games. They meet up at the beginning of the game, and then are split up soon after, taking them both on their separate paths and stories, which is as far as we'll discuss today. The story is actually pretty interesting, and this game is one of the few where I literally found myself reading every single note or piece of information that I found through the entire game from start to finish, just to learn and put together as much of the plot as I could. Finally, let's talk about the overall experience and verdict. Should you buy the game? The game costs $54.95 Australian dollars or $40 US, but often goes on sale for around 70% off, bringing it down to about $16.50 Australian dollars or $12 US, meaning that it gets insanely cheap for such a brilliant game. If you can't tell already, I highly recommend this game to almost anyone, from someone who loves horror or tense immersive experiences, to someone who's never played one and is looking for something completely different from what they usually play. Now of course, if the idea of horror and anything scary is too much for you, or if you love feeling overpowered and mowing through hordes of enemies, this game might not be the best plan. But if you've liked any of what you saw or heard in this video, I was blown away by this game, and I think you will be too. I hope you all enjoyed this review of Resident Evil 2 Remake. If you did, it would be amazing if you could leave a like or even subscribe for plenty more.